This conference will now be recorded.
You're all
Good
set.
afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Alicia. This meeting is so our clerk can present the tentative budget that she received on March 20th to the board so we can start the process of our budget. So if you would do that, Joanne.
Okay, I'm presenting the tentative budget that you all got through the email, and we need a motion to approve this.
So I'll make a motion to approve the tentative budget as presented.
I'd second.
Okay,
Okay, so we're all on the same page. We've had the one that we worked on and made some notes and everything, and now we've got this tentative one that the official one. This is the one that'll go out to the public once
Right.
we've had this meeting, so they can have that to look at. We can't make any changes to the budget until after the public hearing, but we can talk about it all we want and figure out what we've got, what we have to do to make this work. So how do you want to address the budget? Line item or specific item?
I have a
Hey,
question.
take turn. Okay, so
Sure.
is this Michelle?
It's Michelle, and my question is, can we start by talking about what the bottom line is at this point? Are we over? Are we under? By how much? And what is the tax rate? And then we can go back to line items if we need to. I just need to hear the overview, so I know if I understand it correctly.
Is Tina on there? Do you want to do that, Tina, or do you want me to?
Completely up to you, Norma.
You're going to give it to me? Well, look on your budget that Tina sent on the 20th,
Right.
and it's different. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to find some money here.
So the 64,000 is the deficit?
At this point. Tina had some notes down at the bottom. If
So
we kept within the text.
Perhaps, Michelle, can you tell me where are you picking up the 65,000?
The cover sheet, the budget recap page.
Okay, so the recap page where it says over and under cap,
Mm-hmm.
that's just telling us how much over the tax cap that we are. I plugged that in. It's a kind of a plug figure to keep us with a balanced budget.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a moving target. If you don't increase taxes by 65,000,
Mm-hmm.
then we wouldn't have enough revenue to support the budget as it's currently presented.
Okay.
Now, that said, there's been, more conversation and changes being made. With some of the input that the board has made, I've started keeping track of all of the changes. So, for instance, eliminating the $8,600 in payroll for, I think I had it under
Meter maid.
Yep. So if I
Yes.
eliminate that, but then I have to add, we had the bills for the New York State retirement came in. Those are going to be up $10,000, which kind of washes itself back and forth.
Right.
I guess what I'd like to emphasize is that if you want to come in under your tax cap,
Mm-hmm.
you need to squeeze an additional $75,000 out of this budget, at least.
Now that was
So in other words,
before we met, right? Last time?
say that again?
Okay. When the board met last time for our workshop, the last time we actually physically saw each other. We were working on that 75,000, I thought, and I thought we found it.
Well,
Now, I could
here,
be wrong.
what we did not have at the time were your final assessments.
Mm-hmm,
We did not have the amount we were going to have to pay down on the $5 million ban.
mm-hmm,
I had a plug figure $50,000 in that line.
right.
It came back at 115,000.
Okay.
So,
Bless you.
okay, so, you know, our budget hearing is pretty early in the season, and when you start to put a budget together, you don't have all the information yet that you're going to need.
Right.
So there's a lot of information that's continuing to come in. That probably had the biggest impact because
Mhm.
that's, you know, that was $65,000 more than I was anticipating right there.
So that was most of the money we found.
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay. I know I'm asking some pretty basic questions, but budgeting is not my strength.
Oh, it's a you know, it's a work in progress too.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of moving pieces. But I did get confirmation on that, and it is 115,000.
Mhm.
Now, in reference to these questions in the budget, you had asked Alicia to identify about the 599 and what that covers.
Mhm.
Were you able to get that accomplished before our meeting today, Alicia?
Yes, I responded back to Tina.
And
Well, the answer is that it is stipulated in the bargain. Also been provided to the full-time non-bargaining employees.
okay, that's what I was thinking, but so we have to keep that in there.
There's nothing that demands to keep it in there for the non-bargaining, but the reality is you have such a low number of non-bargaining that it's really a minuscule number.
Correct.
Mhm.
I understand. Okay. Okay. I understand. Yep. I do know that I spoke with Terry, and I had some brief conversations yesterday about what else he could do with his budget. The docks, we know that's an issue. He wasn't able to get back to me today, but he will continue. I will work with him about the docks and see what we can come up with, for after the public hearing to make a change.
But I think we have to know we've got to keep moving forward to find this money.
Yes.
So that when we have they're going to ask questions that will already be answered, in our mind and on paper that at the public hearing. But we've got to get this stuff documented to know where we are.
Right. No, I fully understand that. And even though Terry doesn't have it documented today, he may have it done tomorrow. It's not something that's going to be laid down in reference to the dock workers.
But,
Yeah.
Right, but I think that is such a small number that we got to
Oh, I
start
agree.
thinking bigger.
Yes. Right.
And we've got in here for the sales tax at 580, and anything that you're seeing from anybody, they're all looking at 40% less.
Right.
And I think you got to keep in mind that the sales tax that we're collecting now on the budget is the fiscal year for sales tax. We're on a calendar year. So the money we get in the next two payments on sales tax, I don't think with our budget that we have now is going to make it.
Mhm.
So we're going to be in
Correct.
the hole when we get at the end of this budget, our current budget.
Well, I do know that there's some things that we need to discuss, to make these big cuts. I'm just curious, do we want to go into executive session to make this conversation, or have another session that's just executive session when you're talking about making these large cuts?
Now, we can invite you guys to stay for executive session if we want to. I think what Nancy's saying is we want that on the record or off the record.
I mean, I'm not going to make any statements on the record about situations that may or may not happen. So I don't know if everybody catches what I'm saying, when it comes to personnel.
Well,
So
do we
I'm not
want
sure.
to,
I'm not sure how that's handled. That's really the question I'm asking.
If there's the ability to, if there's any other additional aspects of the budget you want to talk about beyond that, I would do that first, and then we can end the recording
Okay.
and continue the meeting versus cutting it up by ending the recording, then going back and recording again. We'd have
Right.
two
Right,
pieces.
understandable. Yeah.
Now, I spoke to the
Yeah.
police chief again, and he feels he's made all the cuts he can. I'll ask him again to keep looking, obviously, and he's already agreed not to do overtime unless it's an emergency, that he'll either use part-time personnel or he'll switch to letting the county or the state cover if he's a man down.
oh, I think that is a definite, just to get us through this next couple of months on a budget we're working on now. Because
Right.
they're about out of overtime money. And
They're
if
not out of all.
Kevin can, if somebody calls in and they can't work, nobody covers. I mean, if
Exactly.
this time of year, we don't have anybody. I mean, the other day, Kevin wasn't working. He had Josh working in his slot. We didn't
I'll
need that.
remind him. I'll remind him.
But I don't think it's about reminding now. It's about saying, no, you can't do it.
Can't say no after the fact, though, so we have to push him in advance.
Yeah, we got to, I think it's got to come from the board.
Mhm.
If somebody calls in and can't work, then call the sheriff's department, say there's nobody here in Clayton to cover.
Mhm. Yeah.
There's
So
park
I
police
will
running
talk
around.
to him about that again. But he's on board at least for 2020 and 21. So now I'll remind him he has to start like now, not wait.
Yeah. And we had that discussion earlier, thinking that it might help, but so far it hasn't.
I bet.
And he doesn't want to hear what we've got to do to
Well,
make this happen.
I understand, and I'll keep working on it. I mean, I can only tell him. I can't sit in the office and supervise him.
Oh, I totally agreed. But I think when the board comes up with, like Nancy, we should go in an executive session after we go through what we've got here and any other things we want to talk about, and then we will go on executive session and talk on the personnel side.
Mm-hmm.
So can I
Does that make
chime in?
sense?
Yes.
I don't even know if I'm allowed to, but
Sure, you
We'll
are.
let you.
Why would
I
you
just-
be here otherwise?
well, I just wanted to, from a higher level budgeting perspective, what I'd like you to be thinking of. So when we first met, we came into this knowing that we had a tough budget year ahead of us, irregardless of the fact that we're now having a crisis in our nation. So one, we knew we had to get really tight. We knew we had to tighten down the current fiscal year. We need to take pretty drastic measures, probably even further this fiscal year to figure that out. Definitely our revenues that we're projecting are going to be impacted. We do not know the full extent of what aid or support we will receive as municipalities as we embark on the remainder of this year as well as into your next fiscal year. But I believe it would be prudent for the board to consider a reduction, at least in the sales tax revenue that we've got here. Certainly, it would make sense if the board decided they want to stick firm to keeping on, within the 2% tax cap legal limit to help the village residents out. But just remember that every piece of revenue that comes out, we need to offset that with some sort of expenditure reduction. So I know these are really tough decisions. And I'll help you try and assess it and figure it out the best that I can, but you've definitely got a big job ahead of you.
I was going to ask a question. Oh, Terry had mentioned cutting back on the amount of salt purchase. Is that reflected in the budget?
Yes. I think you changed that, Tina. He
I
he
think
looked at the budget and he felt that you did.
yes, hold on, I gotta
Yeah, and that
remember.
was, I think, $5,000.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I think the piece that I know the piece that I missed was the 8,600.
Mhm.
Um,
I guess there's a couple of things. One is, people aren't, we can tax people all we want, but they may not have the money to pay. And the other thing is that um, staying within the tax cap may not be realistic. We haven't even talked about the budget balance and maintaining a budget balance. So um, I'm torn, I guess, is what I'm saying. We
Well,
also
and I think that we're all torn, and that's why we have these discussions, but nothing has to be set in stone as of today, but it's a
right.
lot of conversation and the direction that we may or may not want to go.
The other question I have is once we've approved a budget, a final budget, and it's submitted, could we do something like in August or September review the budget and make changes? I know we can't touch taxes at that point, but can we make other changes?
Like what kind of changes?
Oh, like at that point in time, decide if we want to change how much we're spending in a category or that kind of thing.
you can
Maybe too
definitely
late.
you can amend your budget
Mm-hmm.
throughout the course of the year.
Yeah, I've been under the impression you can do those things, yes.
They can not spend the money, but there's
That's what I
no
mean.
way we're going to get any more. There was a question that there was going to be money from the state or federal money to help every community. And I had to call from NICOM, and we had to call our senator to say you can't let this go through without taking into consideration villages and towns with less than 550,000 people. Well, if they set that threshold, we're not going to get any money.
Right.
So we can't plan on anybody bailing us out, I don't think.
One of the other questions Nancy and I had both had was, I know we're in the middle of reviewing options for different grants, and can we freeze some of that instead of like calling for more grants and bonds and
Well, the bonds you got to pay back.
right.
So
I understand.
like on a grant, Megan wrote for the NBRC grant just today. Actually, she sent a copy, and I was going to bring that up later for $550,000 to go towards the one that Barton and Judas is working on at Riverside Drive.
Well, that's good. Yeah.
So we got the $1 million from USDA that they've
But
been
is that
talking
a
about.
grant or a loan?
That's a grant, $1 million grant from USDA, and then Megan's working on this NBRC grant, and they've usually been $250,000, and we've been pretty lucky in getting any ones that we've ever put in for. So that would be helpful down, but that hasn't got anything to do with this budget.
No,
Correct.
no.
Because that's water sewer.
Mm-hmm.
Where we're in trouble is in the general budget. Water sewer is going to live.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at least we'll be able to use the bathroom.
Oh, they didn't
drink
have any water on Riverside Drive
Oh no,
this morning, and that was ugly. So
they're always ugly on Riverside Drive, though. It's too
oh,
noisy,
well,
it's too
God,
quiet. There's no parking.
I don't know, but they got through that. So do we want to talk about this budget the way it is right now, get everything else off the table that we need to talk about, and go into executive session? Because what we've got to do is make big decisions. These $500-$600 ones aren't going to get us there.
Correct. I think as far as what we present at the budget hearing, this budget is fine in my mind. To present, it's not fine as a final budget.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So I don't need to.
This is the one that we have to present.
Jeremy, you've been
The
awful
one that
quiet.
can I ask a question?
Yep.
I just want to know that once you guys go into executive session and you're talking about personnel, I'm just wondering, do we know what the union, if we're talking about the workers that work for the union, are we able to do anything as far as laying someone off or, anything?
Those, yeah,
That would be an Alicia question once we go into executive.
those are, yeah, and those are questions
sorry,
again
Mayor.
that need to be answered before any decisions are made. So, I mean, I think everybody, I'm not going to make any decisions today. We'll just start looking at all the pieces. That's just my thought process, because I don't. So anyway, we'll discuss it. I'll discuss it more in executive session.
Is Jeremy still with us?
Yes.
Does
Oh,
Jeremy have an
Jeremy.
opinion on any of this stuff?
Yeah.
Hey, again. Yeah,
Is there anything
well,
you wanna-
I'm listening and I'm absorbing for sure.
There you go.
I have thoughts.
I got.
I have thoughts that I have thoughts
I would love
Okay,
to.
so-
that I will include in executive session.
Okay.
Can I
Okay,
ask
so
one
let
more
me go down.
question? I just want to
Go ahead.
ask one question, and I think that this is important for us to consider in the conversation that you'll have in executive session. But I just want Tina to clarify, and I think she already answered for me, but it might be a question that other people have. If we were to go ahead and adopt the budget in the manner in which it's prescribed right now, is it accurate that there would be a $30,000+ loss between dock revenues and dock expenditures?
It
Yes.
appears based on the revenue that we're projecting. Yeah.
Okay, I think that is a fact that needs to be on the table.
Well, yeah, I obviously don't. I don't disagree with that.
I just had an idea that might work with that. I'll discuss in executive session.
We've got $35,000 budgeted in revenue, and we've got $37,000 in labor and fringe associated with maintaining, the labor for those docks. And that's not materials, utilities, or anything else. So yes.
Okay. If you guys don't have anything else, if you're ready to go into executive session, you just need a motion.
I'd make the motion.
Wait a minute, don't go away.
Oh,
Wait a
sorry.
minute, because we got a few things I got to have some help on here. I sent you out that information on stat, which was way more than what we kind of thought it would be. So rather than go with that, we should stick with GoToMeeting, and that's how they're going to deal with it during this crisis time, right?
Yep.
Is that?
I'm good with that.
Yeah, all good with that. We'll do the same system we're doing today, and I'll get hold of stat, and when the time comes, if we have it. But Alicia made a good point. We are in real trouble, HR-wise, not having our policy book up to date. Do you want to explain that a little bit, Alicia?
It just is a simple fact. Your current employee handbook is incredibly out of date. And if you're looking at, with the question laid on the table, if you're looking at either what the extent of an issue might be arising from you having an outdated employee handbook versus what issues you may have from not having a live stream of your board meetings, you're looking at a lot more trouble with respect to your employee handbook being outdated. It's a very litigious world out there. I think we know that now, and we've had our fair share of questions and issues come up with respect to things that should have been very clearly stated in the handbook. Normally a handbook is updated every 2, worst case scenario, 3 years. You're well beyond that. There's so much state and federal law that has changed with respect to employee relations. If you had one priority for next year, I would not suggest it be changing your technology. It's just my opinion.
One of the thoughts I have on that is looking for a grant for that versus taking it out of the
You're not
existing
going to
budget?
find one. I wish that I could tell you you would, but you aren't going to. And in reality, the pricing that you've received is exceptionally lower than what you would get from another firm, because we basically piggyback that estimate on the fact that the town is a current customer. So they gave you the same pricing they gave us 4 years ago.
I'm not arguing with the price. I'm just trying to figure out where we'll find the money.
I can't answer that question offhand, but I can tell you that for what you're asking for, it is a good price. I know that it doesn't put the money on the table to pay the bill. But again, I'm only answering this question with respect to, does it make sense to go forward with the technology proposal? And I would have to say, considering we've chosen not to go forward at this time with the employee handbook proposal, I couldn't stand behind moving forward with the technology proposal, because I think the issues pushing you to update your handbook are much more pressing than the ones to update your technology.
I don't have any problem with your statement.
I don't have a problem with your statement. It just takes our tax cap from 75,000. Now we're up to 80,000. And it's just, again, things that I have to think about, because we don't have the $5,000 budgeted. I don't know. So, yeah, I mean, but we still have time to think and talk. So,
Yeah, it's nothing about what you're saying that I disagree with. It's just, show me the money kind of thing.
Understood.
Okay. Okay, before we go into, we got to set a date and a time for the public hearing, because it has to be advertised and we're running out of time. The latest we can have the public hearing is the 20th of April. And I really hate to push it out that far in case something happens and we haven't had it.
What about the 15th?
I've got it out there for what would work for anybody.
yeah, I
And
would say
do
the
we have-
14th or 15th at 5:30 would be fine, right? Or 6.
You want to do it at 5:30?
Mm-hmm.
At 5:30 on the 15th. Okay, for the public hearing. So
Right.
Joanne, you can get the ad ready so it can get in the paper, because I have to be ahead of that. And 5:30 on the 15th, public hearing, and that's we'll just do the public hearing.
Okay.
Now, she
On the
wants
budget.
to say that it's online and not in person, right?
I think
We
at
can
this
have-
point, you're going to have to schedule it online, because I don't believe the restrictions are planning to be lifted prior to that date.
Nor I.
So Joanne, I will go ahead and set this meeting up, and I will send you the link so that you can include that in your notice and on the website.
Okay, and also I have a question that I'm not able to remotely work from home, so I would have to go to the office to get into the documents in order to do the public hearing notice and send it to.
Right.
Just
Oh,
don't
that's
bring
another
anyone
thing
with
that's
you.
on.
Would that be okay?
Go ahead. Well, that was one of the things that's on the list here of things to think about, because the DPW is going back to work with a limited force. They had to work today for an emergency. The town highway is going back. Do we want to have the office on that schedule that we had set up before it was 0? Have Joanne work 3 days, Pam work 2 days, one at a time?
That would be fine with me if, I mean, that's fine with me unless Pam just needs 1 day and then Joanne 4 days.
Well, she
But
won't.
otherwise,
But we've
that's
got
fine
to
with
stick
me.
by. Go ahead.
I don't want to get in too deep into your discussion. I'll let you know I understand why the labor force is doing what they're doing, and they're doing it as a result of a conversation with the county, but I will let you know that the governor has not lifted his 100% restriction specifically for office staff. So while I understand it's very inconvenient, I would just be very thoughtful about the changes that you're making.
I thank you, Alicia, because I feel the same. It depends on who you believe. Some people think this is going to be over with.
I think
And,
part of the
we've got
highway
on.
forces, part of the rationale behind the highway force is that they're anticipating, or the expectation is that they're working not just alone per se, 6 feet away, but they're working outside. There's a big difference between having them work outside picking up brush on opposite sides of the road and sitting next to each other in the break room.
What about a compromise here, which is we allow Joanne to go in the office by herself on an as-needed basis?
That is currently the town's program.
So why don't we allow
Right,
Joanne to go in as needed to do things like access documents, but not officially have the office open at all?
Well, yeah,
Because we
well,
gotta
the
stick,
office wouldn't be officially open at all anyway, even if she went in 3 days a week.
Now, I know that the county administrator and assistant administrator are both working full-time in the office.
but when they, I guess that you all know that the server went down, and so that had to leave here and go get fixed, and it got back today. But I don't know when they got it fixed. Did they put you on to work from home, Joanne?
No, she does not, and I speaking with Alicia earlier, she's asked to work from home remotely also a while back, and it hasn't happened. So as of right now, I would say that, it's not going to happen. And I really
You
don't
don't,
want to go around much more and having, our whole system.
okay, so now we're back to Joanne's not going to be able to work remotely, but to come in as needed. But that doesn't mean 9 to 5.
No,
No, we got to get the budget thing out. We got to get the web page with the information on it. I think we've just got to make the sacrifice like everybody else.
Mm-hmm. Yep, just go in when you have to, stay as short a period of time as you can, and be discreet.
absolutely.
Don't let people notice you're there and then start coming in and trying to talk to you.
And the building is not open, period.
Correct. And Alicia, just to confirm what you said earlier, the town is kind of doing that also as needed basis?
We are going, individuals will access their office as needed. For instance, my office is in for a certain period of time on Monday morning because that's when we receive cash from our departments that are still operating, such as the transfer site, which hasn't closed or reduced its hours. We also are getting the mail and processing any cash on that day. So we set a day for us. The assessor has gone in here and there. The code enforcement officer has run in to do a permit because obviously they have to do their work through the programs that are only accessible through their computer. But we've made certain that we're not in the building at the same time and that we are only in our own office and that we're paying attention to all the rules. But it's definitely not a regular amount of time by any means. It's based on necessity.
Okay.
Will that work for you, Joanne?
Yes,
We
yes.
can make that happen. Okay. The one other thing too on this issue we've got over on Union Street, Jeremy's been taking the lead on it to try to keep them from killing one another, and Kevin has been involved. So Dick Ingerson is sort of, I don't know where he's at right now. He's a code enforcement officer that's not enforcing. So we got it up to Kevin and Jeremy. So if there's any questions that come up about that Union Street thing, Jeremy's our go-to guy.
I would
that's
suggest reaching out to him. I know he's been working on the issue from a zoning end, I believe, or at least he's familiar with that. I've seen the commentary going back and forth. So Richard is accessible by cell phone or email.
Well, the thing is, they were supposed to abide by all this by March 20th, and then this all, he's not working, and so he's not enforcing the issues that were supposed to be done. So between Jeremy and Kevin, they made a deal with Jake, I believe, that he's got to have met this criteria by the 30th, right?
That's true.
Jeremy? Yeah. So that's, and he
That
is
would be
not.
no. That would be no. That would no. That would be not this Monday. The following Monday.
I thought he said the 30th.
No, I think it's not this coming Monday, but the following Monday, whatever that is.
That's the 6th.
Well, today's the 26th, so today's Thursday, so it's Monday.
Not this Monday, the following Monday, Norma.
April 6th.
No, but the 30th
April 6th,
is
yeah.
the day that.
If that's on.
Well, then Kevin told me the 30th.
Well, I think
I
Kevin
don't know.
misspoke. So it would be,
Okay,
it
so
would be, it would be Wednesday. It would be Monday the 6th, April 6th. And I've
okay,
gone over to Jake's. I've been over to Jake's today. Um, he is reviewing his application for the planning board and zoning board, and he is going to abide by that with regards to the ADA sidewalk compliance and this and that. He
but
is
the
going to
time
get
to
everything.
start, that seems, okay, in that is supposed
He
to
will
be
have
start time,
he
right?
will have all the stuff moved out of the way. He said by next Wednesday, I think was what Kevin said. He'll have the dock out of there. But then he will
Okay,
start
but
working on that and siding the side of his building. He is working to be a model citizen.
okay, but one of the things that they complained about is him starting before 8 o'clock, and I think that was in the criteria that he was
He
supposed
agreed
to
not to
abide
do.
by.
He agreed not to do that, and he is
Not
going.
to do
His
it?
business is exactly right. He won't be out in the parking lot banging until 8 o'clock. And
But
so
until 8,
He's
okay.
not supposed to be working
he,
in that building at all.
they're not. They're not. The problem was, I guess, welding and banging steel at 7:30 in the
Right.
morning.
Right, that was the issue.
You know, the guys
And
guys
outside,
mill about.
yeah.
You know, they mill about. You got to get prepared for your day. You just can't all of a sudden just show up at 8. Some guys come in at 7:30. They put their lunchbox away and get their group plan together. You can't stop that. I'm sorry. You know, so
Well,
they
isn't that a
agreed not to.
non-zone?
He is going to revised his business strategy. When he initially I sold him the Marine Transportation Company and the Towboat US. He has since sold the Towboat US and has modified his business to incorporate marine construction and dock building and what have you. So he is writing a letter to Dickey and getting an application to change his usage to
Oh, okay.
to be more like what Billy Bach applied for.
Okay. So in the meantime, you and Kevin can get
Absolutely.
armed and go. Okay. And another person
I'm all
that's got
over
in
it. I'm
now
all
is
over
David.
it, Norma.
Yeah,
trust
good man.
you, Darren.
David.
I've got 3/4 of my day. I've talked 40 minutes with Richard. I've talked with Kevin. I've talked with Jake. I've talked with Jenny. I've been around this thing probably 6 hours today, and I'm about ready to go do a little bit of work at my own stuff here.
Yeah, that would be
I
nice.
believe it.
That would be nice. So those were the items that we had to get done as a board. And
Okay.
we accomplished that. So I think we're okay. Are we all okay? And then go into executive session?
I'd make
Yeah.
a motion to
Absolutely.
go into executive session to discuss personnel issues.
Are you including any of us with you? That needs to be in the motion.
And I would like to include Tina, Alicia, and Joanne in the executive session with us because it's regarding money and personnel. Or personnel
Is everybody-
in relationship to money. I don't know. Did that work?
I agree with that. I would like them on as well. I have a few things I want to say.
Okay, so nobody else is on. The same group is on now. I'm going to put my phone on speaker because Steve just came in a few minutes ago.
Just a moment. I'm
Okay.
stopping the recording.
Okay.